What's up guys, David here, and today I have a very special unboxing for you guys because in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the Vivo X5 Max, which is probably a brand and a phone that you guys have never heard of before, and it's not a device that's going to be a top contender in 2015, it's not a phone that's going to win a lot of speed tests here on the channel, but it is a brand and it is a phone that has won in something, and something significant at that, and that is the title for the world's thinnest smartphone. Now, over the last few weeks and months, you guys have probably heard about a phone called the Oppo R5, whether it was on a tech blog or here on YouTube, with people claiming it to be the thinnest smartphone in the world at 4.85 millimeters thick. Now, this was true technically for about a week before Vivo came along and announced the X5 Max, claiming to be even thinner at 4.75 millimeters thick. So not much of a difference between the two, just 1/10 of a millimeter. But when it comes to winning the top spot for the world's thinnest smartphone, it doesn't matter if you're thinner by 1/10 of a millimeter or by an inch.
It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
Being thinner is thinner, and that is what the X5 Max is. And taking a look at the device itself, your first impression, your second impression, and probably even your third impression is almost guaranteed to be, wow, this thing is freaking thin. I mean, I feel like I could sit here all day and tell you guys how thin I think this thing is. Obviously, a lot of it's not gonna come through because you're taking a look at it through video. So I am gonna be doing a side-by-side comparison with some of the more popular smartphones out on the market, just to kind of give you a point of reference. But first things first, let's go ahead and finish up the unboxing. Actually, a very nicely presented box with a few boxes inside of the box. So this unboxing is gonna go several layers deep. And first thing we'll take a look at here is presumably the documentation and paperwork. And wow, actually what's interesting here is there's a case included with your typical documentation. So not sure why Vivo has done that. I don't know if it's because the device is so thin and it needs a case, or if they're just trying to add value to the user experience. But either way, that's actually pretty cool. So moving on, we'll take a look at the USB wall adapter and cable included. And nothing special here, just your typical USB to micro USB cable with your wall adapter, so you could charge the phone in that way, because I've seen that hundreds of times before. And last thing inside of the box are these headphones. And actually something I want to show you guys with these headphones is the connection that it's using on the back, and that is a 3.5 millimeter connection. Now, you may be wondering why I'm making a point to even talk about the headphone jack and the fact that it's a 3.5 millimeter headphone. And the reason why is because the Oppo R5, which I was talking about earlier, doesn't actually have a headphone jack included. And a lot of people were speculating that the reason why they thought it wasn't included was because the device was so freaking thin. But obviously that is not the case, because not only has Vivo included a headphone jack, they did it in a body that's even thinner. So that is actually pretty impressive. And taking a look at the headphone jack, actually, this metal band that goes around the sides, which by the way feels very, very solid in the hand, doesn't actually fully encircle the headphone jack. It goes around maybe, I don't know, 70 or 80%, with the remainder of it being encircled by the back case. So it kind of goes to show you how much they're pushing the boundaries and the limits with this thing. And I gotta tell you guys, I think it's impressive. I mean, I know a lot of you guys are gonna be wondering, you know, why would somebody need a phone so thin? Why would somebody even want a phone so thin? And those are valid questions to ask and concerns to have. But from my standpoint, and from a technology enthusiast standpoint, and from a PhoneBuff standpoint, you kind of have to appreciate the technology and the engineering that goes into making a device this thin, especially when you consider the fact that the X5 Max actually has relatively decent specs. It's got a 5.5 inch 1080p display, has a 5 megapixel front facing camera, has a 13 megapixel rear camera with a Sony sensor. Underneath the hood, you have a Snapdragon 615 64-bit octa-core processor with 2 gigabytes of RAM, a 2000 milliamp battery. Of course, it has a headphone jack, which obviously is hard to put in here with a device this thin, And maybe most impressively, you also have a micro SD card slot for expandable memory. So it's impressive. The fact that they're able to fit so much into a device so thin, I gotta tip my hat off to Vivo. I think it's impressive. Now, let's get to that side-by-side comparison that I promised you guys earlier. So first phone we'll compare it to is gonna be the HTC One M8. And taking a look at these things side by side, I mean, you can tell right off the bat how much thinner the X5 Max is. Now, keep in mind, the M8 does have a curved design, so its thickest point actually isn't on its sides. It's in the middle of the back. And maybe if you look at it this way, you can tell how much thinner the X5 Max is. It's impressive. Let's go ahead and compare it to another device. Let's compare it to one that has a similar size in the Galaxy Note 4. Wow, the Note 4, I never thought it was a thick phone, but compared to this thing, it looks pretty hefty. It looks like I could stack two X5 Maxes on top of each other to equal one Note. Now, obviously I'm exaggerating a little bit. You guys could do the math on that, but it's thinner, and it's significantly thinner. Definitely noticeable. And last device we'll compare it to, probably the most relevant, is the iPhone 6 Plus. This phone was one of the thinner phones when it was first announced, and even this compared to the X5 Max, I mean, there's just no comparison. It doesn't come close. The X5 Max is just so much thinner, even with the rounded edges that the iPhone has. It's impressive. And you know, one thing I will say, just by holding the device for the little period that I've been holding it, despite the fact that it has a large screen at 5.5 inches, it feels very, very easy to hold. And it also feels very, very light because the device is so thin, and it doesn't have the biggest battery, obviously, but it's easy to hold. I actually like that. And that's probably one of the big advantages of having a device so thin. And again, do you need a smartphone this thin? Do you want a smartphone this thin? I don't know, that comes down to personal preference. But one thing I will say about having a smartphone this thin is it probably opens the door for a manufacturer like Vivo or Oppo or anybody else to make a device using similar internals, but instead of making it so thin, making it about as thick as, let's say, the Note 4 here. So imagine a device with the same internals as thick as the Note 4, with all that extra thickness being used specifically or solely for the battery. So instead of having a 3000 milliamp battery, maybe you could fit in a 4000 milliamp battery. Instead of the iPhone having a 2000 milliamp battery, maybe you could have a 3000 milliamp battery, and so on and so forth. Maybe you could also fit in a larger camera sensor. I mean, this one is protruding, but maybe if you still have a protruding one, you could get a bigger sensor in there and finally have cameras that have the quality closer to DSLRs. I don't know, just a thought, but anyways, that is it for me in this video. If you guys like this video, if you guys like this content and you want to see more like it, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up to show your love. Subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this. Actually, I have a bunch of videos planned that you guys will not want to miss. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the very next episode.